No, like an X-Acto or a marking
Oh,
knife.
I forgot about this for a second.
Chef.
Oh, good call. Yeah, get it out of the way there so that everyone can see. So as you can see, I've got rounded corners. It is substantially more expensive to round the corners of a mirror or a piece of glass than it is to just cut the squares. It really is. And the fastest and easiest way to do that is by hand, ultimately. It kills me when I see people trying to do it in any other way. Do it by hand, it's not hard. The way I do it is I take a combo square and I either take just the ruler or I can take the whole thing. It kind of depends on the situation where it fits in. And look, I can put the blade long enough in here so that it dips down into that first rabbit, but then rides up on the surface here. And I just barely score. So I have a beginning mark right there. It's almost invisible, but it's a continuation of this line. The whole idea is that I'm trying to remove the extra material in the corner and just in the corner. So on something like this, it tends to be a little bit more difficult because it's shorter. And of course, when we get into the smaller ones, you know, I should be able to still get down into this one, but because this is as short as it is, I'm not going to be able to. I'll show you how I do it then. I'm just going to do it on one corner here for you guys. All right, I've got it marked out. I went and got myself a nice wide chisel. Wide chisel. Wide chisel. What?
Wide.
There we go. Even though the cut I'm going to make is very narrow, I need my wide chisel because I'm going to reference against the back that's already there, okay? If you just hack at it with something tiny, the likelihood is you're going to end up with these rabbits that come out into a funny little point. And I mean, yes, it's the back, but sometimes this won't be the back. Sometimes this will be the front. Sometimes it will be the part that you want to see. So,
I've had to have carved molding like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's bad stuff. So what I'm going to do now is straight up and down here, right on the outside, I'm going to just rock my chisel into that score mark I just made. If you cannot see, come closer. So I've got the width, you know, the majority of the back of that chisel referencing the surface that already exists, and I'm kind of rocking into it. So now I've got a nice pronounced line right there. Then I'm going to cut a little wedge into each one of those things. So making kind of an angled relief cut. This is sort of the first step with a lot of different kinds of joinery. If I'm going to hand chop something that's going to have square sides, I'll score those sides. I'll make a little bit of a relief cut and then I'll remove that material. And I'll just kind of do that all the way down. This doesn't have that much material for me to move, so I don't have to worry quite as much. If I was cutting a hinge mortise, for example, where it was like a lot of material though, I would be very careful about it. In this case, I'm doing it to ensure a good appearance on the surface more than anything else, because this is going to want to remove really, really easily. I'm just going to have to barely like push. See that? Because this is short grain. Well, it's not short grain, it's long grain, but the length of it isn't very long. And it's right at a glue joint, so it wants to kind of fall apart, right?
Does the, like, how big is it? Is that also, like, depending on the wood, since you're, like, using plywood?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, any wood, if it's this tiny of an amount, yeah.
Okay.
Unless it's like got really, really long fibers, like oak might be a little bit more of a pain in the ass, but, you know. But look, then I can just go back and forth. And I go down, down, straight across. And it doesn't have to be with me this way, it could be like that. It's just that I'm trying to make sure everybody can still see what I'm doing. But I use the angled back of my chisel like a plane, and it references, okay? And each step doesn't have to be perfect, but it shouldn't preclude perfection. I shouldn't be like taking too much away, right? And then when I get to about where I am right now, which is within a 30-second, then I start to be a little more careful about these things. And now I'm going plant myself and just barely pare this back. And because I have a wide chisel, I'm able to reference out that flat with the part of the chisel that's not cutting, right? Look at that. That's some sexy shit right there.
Wow.
Yeah, right. So I can do the same thing in here. I'll do this one in just a second. But you know, if I do have a lip in here, flattest, widest chisel, or widest chisel, and then look, I just use the bevel like it's a hand plane. And I come in and I ride it along the surface that's already there as my reference. I use what's there, you know? Should be able to just slide that right out. Mm-hmm. Except I had that too far out. There. Now I'm getting hasty. And that's the thing with this. Don't be in a rush. And don't try to take too much at one time. Don't be greedy. All it does is make more work later. It might seem like it's going to save you time. It always adds time. All right, so that one's nice now. So for this lower one, it's the same process as the upper one, but I may not be able to get my combo square fully in there for whatever reason, right? So I can either use just the blade. That's not too hard. I'll sometimes do that here. I can do that on the long one, no problem. This is not, doesn't really want to work for me though. I just use the shorter part of it, that's all. Still works, it's a straight line, still square, you know? That's all I do. Aha! And then rinse and repeat. I come back in here. One thing you may want to know too is don't start with the corner of your chisel all the way into the corner of your cut. You're inevitably going to overcut. If anything, leave it a little to the inside, and then as you're pushing, it actually is going to displace material and move over for you. So, again, not so important on the backs here. Very important if this was the front of something. All right, and now, bevel cut. When you do this, just work top down. There's no point of doing it any other way. You can do all four at one level, but I usually leave my setup in place and just do one corner at a time. All right. I'm also not, do you see how I have my chisel skewed slightly? If I go straight up and down, I'm gonna make stab marks into my rabbit. Probably not the end of the world, but if I can avoid it, why not? You know? I can go like that and then kind of roll it into that point. It'll work a lot better. I am being a little greedy. I should be clearing my material as I go. I'm taking multiple cuts instead because I'm trying to get this done before the end of class. That's pretty good. It's not perfect. Surprise, surprise, it's not perfect. I'm doing it for demo. It's not bad. I do need to take a little more right there. Rolling up slightly. Pairing with a chisel that isn't sharp though, terrible idea. If you need help honing a chisel into sharpness, holler at me or one of the advanced students who was around last semester who got taught how to sharpen. But there it is, look at that. It's a square on square corner. Woo-hoo! That small little bit of like handwork is gonna help you guys be better woodworkers anyway. You know, practice.